It's April 8th, update from City Hall. First of all, I want to announce that we have a new schedule today. We are going to attempt to hold a press conference such as this routine press conference once per week on Wednesdays at 1:30. We're in a low activity period right now. We're continuing to have meetings behind the scenes. There are fewer and fewer things being updated, and so I don't want to get to the point where I'm using repetitive filler to try to entertain everyone. So if we go to that once a week press conference, then we'll be ready to add days and potentially go back up to 5 or more days later on in the season of this pandemic when it may be more helpful for people. Okay. Well, we saw today on the Department of Health website and the press conference from the governor that the South Dakota positive test numbers are up again, up near 400. And we also noticed that there's a pretty significant lopsided effect between East River and West River on those test results. So much so that it's creating suspicion that there's something wrong with the testing, that West River's not getting tested at the same rate East River is. So I made some inquiries yesterday to try to get to the bottom of this. And although there are not numbers, according to the Department of Health, of test samples submitted by county, they have every reason to believe that with the multiple testing centers, that testing is equal throughout the state, or in proportion throughout the state. South Dakota is now 17th out of 50 in terms of tests per capita. So we're testing quite a few people compared to the rest of the country, or a large portion of the country. But this suspicion remains. So the Department of Health thinks that everything is okay. The testing is going on normally. I spoke with Monument Health this morning, and they indicate that their test numbers are in line with what they would expect. And probably more importantly, the low positive test results in West River and specifically in Monument Health's service area, which is an area that encompasses 450,000 people, their clinical activity is low as well. The number of symptomatic patients, the number of patients suspected of being infected with the virus, that gives some credit to the low testing numbers. So there's a number of factors here that you can imagine will play a part. One of them, as we learned this morning from the governor's press conference, is 80 positive test results from one factory in Sioux Falls. So clearly there are more people in the Sioux Falls area, and so I think there's not a reason to suspect anything fishy going on with the testing. There is still frustration over the tests, in that people are sick and they feel they need to have a test, or they know someone who's sick who has been denied a test, and it's very frustrating. There's also influenza A and B, and there's a number of things that are contributing to people's illness around this time of the year. So I think my conclusion with this is that based on all we know, the population difference and the type of workplaces, we certainly don't have a large factory here that has gone unmitigated for some time. I believe that West River and the Rapid City area are doing something right. We're getting very advantageous period of time, a real opportunity for us to practice, to stay diligent with social distancing, and learning new hygiene practices. And I think this is delaying the spread of the disease or slowing the spread, and that was the goal from the beginning. We're not going to stop it, but to keep it as calm and slow-moving as possible when it starts to invade to a greater extent. Monday night, the City Council made a decision to extend the business closures for an additional 2 weeks until April 22nd. That's certainly not an easy decision for them, and it's a decision that is not universally appreciated throughout the community. There are a number of folks who have a philosophical issue with it, some that have a financial issue with it, and nonetheless, the council made the decision. So during the time between now and April 22nd, we'll be working on the next alternative. If anything needs to be changed in the ordinance, if we need to prepare for the eventual reopening of businesses, we can do that at this time. There are a number of online reports or online testimony about the COVID-19 being a hoax or a scam. Just a couple of them were sent to me this morning and I watched them. Typically they're on YouTube. Someone will send a YouTube video and they will have citizen reporters going around and showing hospitals that are vacant and there's nothing going on in New York City or these type of things. So they're exposing the deception. That's the point of their report, that this is all a staged event for political or other purposes. There's a number of online reports about how Sweden is doing it right and everyone else in the world is doing it wrong, how they've refused to lock their communities down and their economy's flourishing and everything's okay. Well, there are some of those opinions that have been reported in the last few days, and one I saw this morning indicates that the Swedish people's confidence is plummeting as far as their personal safety goes. The numbers continue to spike, and I don't think we're going to find a human being on this planet who will outthink this virus. No one's going to have the perfect plan to avoid getting sick or to let the virus die a natural death and be eradicated. I don't think we should be thinking that way. So all of this energy going into these, you can see them every single day on social media, how this is a scam, it's the liberal media, it's the Chinese trying to ruin the rest of the world. The internet's full of this kind of stuff. And so why is that? Well, in my opinion, it's because human beings are gullible. And they want you to follow their page, and they want you to think like they do so that they don't feel unusual. But we have to pay attention to the experts, the real experts. I could see a doctor or a public health official having the wrong idea and wanting to spread that. But even to find a second one to back it up, or a third one, let alone an entire nation of physicians and scientists who are going to promote a conspiracy against the American people. It's a waste of your time and energy. Pay attention to those experts who are advising us how to act, and for our own health, the health of our communities as well. There's some great examples of social distancing in this community. I've been seeing them just about everywhere I go. Some stores are imposing new occupancy limits on themselves, putting, for lack of a better word, a bouncer at the door, counting people coming in and going out, prohibiting access after their self-imposed occupancy limits have been met. I think that's a very smart practice. Some stores have floor markings or physical barriers to prevent people from penetrating this 6-foot imaginary gap between other human beings. So more stores are getting on board, and that's great. There's still some stores that are not very good examples. And I was doing a home improvement project that I've been dragging out for months at home, and this last weekend I wanted to go to a store and pick up some materials, and I got close to the store and I could see the parking lot was full of people, just like nothing was any different today. So I couldn't do it. I turned around and went back home. And that's my advice for all of you. When you want to go to a store, when you see the parking lot is full, just don't go there. I think it's time for us to shop strategically, to start paying attention to patterns of when parking lots have lots of space in them and making that your shopping time, or being willing to make a wild goose chase. You're going to go out and pick up some groceries and see that it's too full to go back home and try it at another time. This is a good opportunity for us to practice, because we will be experiencing what Sioux Falls is experiencing right now, and that's an influx of these cases that are really affecting the way we feel about our personal safety. The Founders Park parking lot has been pointed out to us by several passersby who say there's too many cars there. The parking lot's full, people standing around socializing, just like nothing's changed. People playing sports. Report of someone playing volleyball with no volleyball net. Football. So personal, close contact sports in a city-owned park. And I have said before, it's not our intention to try to prevent people from enjoying our park amenities or walking trails or any of the natural beauty we have here in the Black Hills. But I'm just asking you, don't push us into a corner and cause us to be reactive, because it would be very easy to close down that park and start policing those things, chasing people out of there and issuing citations, and that is just a very negative way and an unnecessary way to try to deal with this issue. In other news, the CDC now is recommending wearing of cloth masks for people out in the public. And I think already, this recommendation is less than a week old, and already we have seen some signs that people feel more secure in a mask. So they will get closer to you when they're wearing a mask. They will touch all types of things. And here's the truth of the matter. Medical professionals wear this type of equipment all the time. They wear it during procedures. They wear it during sensitive times when infection may be caused by touching or not being sterilized or so on. But and today in our hospitals and our medical facilities, many of these professionals have taken on this all-day policy of wearing this mask and gowns and gloves all day long. And by their own admission, this is difficult for healthcare providers to do properly all day long. Everyone has to pull their mask down to do something, or to scratch their nose, or it goes against human nature. So lay people such as myself and most all of you would not be able to safely wear a mask or even gloves for an extended period of time without rendering them useless by our behavior. I saw a person in a store a week ago wearing rubber gloves, texting on his phone with the rubber gloves. So everything he touched with his gloves, and then touched his phone, and I can imagine when he got home, he would take his gloves off because he doesn't need to protect himself anymore, and he grabs the phone again. So we just have to be cautious with or without masks, with or without gloves. You have to train yourself not to touch your face, which has been difficult for me, and I'm sure difficult for all of us. So this requires practice. We're getting a great opportunity right now to practice. So mask or no mask, the social distancing guidelines still apply, And I would say if you're wearing a mask, they apply as much or even more because of that sense of false security. As far as our Civic Center events that have been canceled, we're getting a large portion of them, 90+% of them, trying to schedule for later in the year. And so that's good news, that people aren't giving up on their entertainment routes. They're planning on there being a season for that type of thing, so that's good. Now, that's what I have. So in terms of another issue that needs discussed is our wastewater treatment and our solid waste operations. I'm going to call on Public Works Director Dale Tech to address you on that issue.
Thank you, Mayor. Solid waste response to the current pandemic situation that we're in is we've got to protect our workforce as well as the public. So we're going to be implementing some new procedures at solid waste, both in the landfill as well as our collection crews. Some of these procedures are already required by city ordinance. I'll get started with our curbside collection. That's our residential collection. All garbage that is in your bin needs to be in a bag. Any of the loose garbage that gets put in has a tendency to blow. As a courtesy, our drivers historically have gotten out to pick that item up, but we will be prohibiting our drivers from exiting their vehicles. So all of the garbage that you put in your bins at home, make sure that it's in a bag and it will all fit in your bin. Another thing that we will not do is pick up additional bags that are set alongside the bin. So make sure that you're keeping a close eye on your output of your garbage and metering it out so it'll fit in the bin every week. Another issue that we've had is out at the landfill. We've been inundated with traffic. Traffic's nearly double out there. That's a good thing. People have time at home and they're cleaning things up. However, it puts stress on our workforce, a lot of close contact with the people that are out there, as well as we need to keep our workforce viable in the future so that we can make it through this entire event with a healthy workforce that can provide the basic curbside collection. So what we'll be doing is prohibiting the use of multiple utility bills for large loads. We'll have cases where someone will bring a pickup truck with a trailer full of trash and use multiple utility bills to dispose of that. We will not be allowing that at this time. We'll be suspending that. And further on down the road, if our volume stays way up, we may temporarily suspend the use of those utility bills. We're not doing that just yet. Just want to give everyone a warning that that may come if we don't see our volume subside. And then lastly, we've gotten a lot of inquiries about our remote sites, our yard waste collection sites, one at Fitzgerald Stadium and the other up on West Boulevard North. We've kept these sites closed because of the high volume. The folks that have to service those sites come from the landfill. Since we're so busy at the landfill, it would be nearly impossible for us to adequately serve those remote sites. So once again, I'm asking the public, please meter out your recyclables. If you've got some yard waste, the only place to dispose of it is at the landfill. We would encourage folks to, once again, if you can, stockpile that for later. We'd certainly appreciate that. So once again, the goal is to keep our workforce healthy so that they can continue to provide this critical service, as well as helping the public not congregate at these sites as well as the landfill. And then one last thing I need to mention is about our sewer system. We have seen an uptick in non-flushable items out at the wastewater treatment plant. It's prohibited by city statute to put anything in the sewer system except for toilet tissue, human waste, and food that's properly gone through a garbage disposal. So flushable wipes are not flushable. Do not put them down the sewer system. rags, feminine hygiene products, all of that stuff belongs in the trash. So we want to make sure that we don't have any backups during this event. That I know the mayor's mentioned it in his previous conferences, that's not a good thing to have a backup. So with that, that's all I have to report. I'll stand for questions, I guess, before maybe the mayor. You may have questions for him. Any questions for me?
And if you have a question, maybe go over to either this mic, the lectern, or back over on this side, so the audience is looking for you. Maybe introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Tech. Nathan Thompson with the Rapid City Journal. You made mention of taking some additional precautions for your employees, that there also may be some reduction in employees at this time as well. Could you go a little bit more further into what the plan is for sustainability throughout this pandemic?
Certainly, our plan, we've asked each division to come up with a plan, if you will, what they're going to do if we start seeing reductions in our workforce due to illness. Obviously, our water, sewer, and solid waste divisions are going to be fully staffed. We have other public works divisions where we can pull people from, so we will maintain our full staffing levels in all three of those divisions. Certainly in-house, we'll have to prioritize what services we'll be providing, and then if we need to in the future, if we see a large number of absences due to illness, we'll pull from other divisions. Thank you.
Any questions for me?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, Nathan Thompson with the Rapid City Journal. At your Monday press briefing, you made mention that you've had conversations about the National Guard and the plans to have 100 beds near or at Monument Health. In the governor's press conference yesterday, she made mention that she had absolutely no idea where these National Guard facilities are going to be placed. Talk about that, and how is the communication between city government and state government when it comes to coordinating where these National Guard facilities are?
Well, that's a good question, and I'll admit that there's really no communication. We aren't asking and they aren't telling the specifics about this. When we learned that the National Guard would be building hospital beds in Rapid City and Sioux Falls, I combined that with the comment from Monument Health that it would be advantageous to have additional space on campus as opposed to off. And so when I mentioned that Monday, may have been more of an assumption. And so I don't know if the governor meant where in town or where in the state, but we have been told Rapid City and Sioux Falls are two of the locations.
Sydney Thorson, Kellerland. My question is, if we continue to see these groups of people gathering at some of the city areas in town, will it be in the conversation to maybe close some of those areas, or is that your authority?
Well, absolutely. And that's, you know, there's enough ugliness going around here now. I mean, government stepped into private business and made decisions for them that's going to hurt them and hurt the economy, and this whole pandemic has hurt the economy. So, I mean, it's not my intention for government to be anyone's parent and take charge of every human being here. So that's why we've been marketing and preaching about keeping safe distance and doing the basic hygiene routine and helping us accomplish this goal of slowing the spread. So I got an angry message the other day from someone commenting that these gatherings in the parks are legal, nothing wrong with them, and so on. And that's absolutely true. But it's especially, when you're having close contact with people, it's especially dangerous for you and your family and their families. That's not just a personal risk like riding a bicycle without a helmet. That choice only affects one person. This choice could affect hundreds of people. So, and that's why I said earlier, please cooperate. Use good judgment when you're out here. Know that there are people calling, complaining about your gatherings when you're getting too close, and that includes gatherings of government people as well. I mean, it's not, we can't just flip a switch and behave 100% appropriately all the time. We fall into old habits or so on. But if we get pushed into a corner, if it looks like we cannot get compliance from some of these things, absolutely, we'll close them in one day. And that's not our intention. The best part of the year is coming up with spring and summer and fall. Those are the 3 good seasons in South Dakota, by my own opinion. And so we don't want to ruin that for everybody by putting a bunch of rules on there because of a few irresponsible actions.
Jeff Voss from KOTA and Black Hills Fox. As you kind of work with Monument, are you guys surprised that as the state has increased in number of positives for COVID, Pennington County has remained at 6 for some time now?
Well, yeah, overall, I am surprised, pleasantly surprised. And as I mentioned, I have information today from Monument Health that indicates that those are accurate numbers, and there's no reason to believe they're not. So I think it's a real gift to get this time of a low period, and I don't expect it to last forever, but we're doing something right. And so I want us to keep doing it, because when we get higher numbers and when we're experiencing what Sioux Falls is experiencing, it'll be a comfort to us, I think, as a community, that we've had a slower onset and a slower progression, hopefully, and that we're going to be overall healthier than maybe some of the projections have indicated. So that's my wish, anyway.
And then one more. One of those new positives announced yesterday and confirmed by the Department of Health today was a teacher from Oglala, Lakota County. And there's some people who believe she had traveled through Rapid City Airport. Is that something you've worked with them out there to see if that teacher had came through, or?
I'm not aware if the Department of Health called our airport to inquire about that or called any of the airlines, so I wouldn't know that information. Any other questions for me? Not? Oh, one more? Okay.
Nathan Thompson with the Rapid City Journal. The governor also declared today a statewide day of prayer for strength for South Dakota. I know there are a lot of people who are just inundated right now with information about COVID-19. You said that Rapid City, West River seems to be doing something right. What words of encouragement, Mayor, would you have for the people here in Rapid City and West River?
Well, I think, overall, the progression of this pandemic is going to test us all. We will be tested as far as our emotional and spiritual strength, and some will be tested on their physical resiliency as well. So this is a great time to be picking up the practices of physical exercise and meditation and reading, or engaging in spiritual activities. Those are going to be, at some point over the next few months, a very, very important part of daily life. I think self-care is one of the most important things, and frankly, we have slowed down some of our meetings here, our daily meetings with the city surrounding the COVID pandemic, in order to purposely cause a break in the day for the city department directors and other employees who are engaging in this, because we're starting off slow. We're not immune to burnout or to being overwhelmed, and so the recipe for avoiding that, I think, is what I mentioned: to engage in physical, mental, and spiritual activities that can keep us healthy in body, mind, and spirit. Thanks, everyone, for attending, and if you have any questions throughout the week or weekend, let me know.